The 1980s, a decade of big dreams, big hair, and even bigger shoulder pads. It was a time when fashion, toys, and trends went full throttle into the ridiculous, and we loved every second of it. If you grew up in the 80s, you probably lived through at least half of these, and if you didn't, buckle up. These were the wildest fads that made absolutely no sense, and yet defined a generation. Leg warmers. Originally used by ballet dancers to keep leg muscles warm and prevent injury. But around 1980, thanks to Flashdance and the explosion of home aerobics culture, leg warmers went mainstream.
They're functional, fashionable, and just plain fun. They're cable knit leg warmers for dance, aerobics, or exercising, for year-round fashionable style.
Its peak popularity happened between 1983 and 1984. They were on every dancer, mall rat, and fashion-forward 13-year-old. You wore them over jeans, tights, or leotards. You didn't need to dance, you just needed to look like you might. It started to fade by 1985. Fashion had shifted toward acid-wash denim and oversized shirts. Leg warmers became more of a punchline than a fashion statement. You can't mention the 80s without saying the Rubik's Cube. It was invented in 1974 by Hungarian professor Erno Rubik, licensed globally and launched in the US by Ideal Toy Corp in 1980. Its peak popularity happened between 1980 and 1982, with over 100 million units sold globally in 3 years. The Rubik's Cube cultural reach was featured on The Tonight Show, in cereal promotions, and even had its own cartoon, Rubik the Amazing Cube, in 1983. But it started to fade because of oversaturation, knockoffs, and the challenge itself burned people out. I still can't figure out how to solve the thing. Interest waned by mid-1983 until a huge resurgence in the 2000s with speed cubing and nostalgia. Slap bracelets. Slap bracelets were invented by a Wisconsin schoolteacher, Stuart Anders, in 1983. It was mass marketed by 1988 under the name Slap Wraps. Its peak popularity happened at the end of the decade in 1989. By then, you weren't cool unless you had at least 3 on each wrist. They were sold at malls, toy stores, and gas stations. Patterns ranged from neon zebra stripes to holographic glitter. What happened to slap bracelets? Well, cheap knockoffs used low-quality metal that would snap through the fabric and cut kids. Schools started to ban them by the early 90s, and the fad quickly died. Cabbage Patch Kids. Created by Xavier Roberts in 1978 as Little People, licensed by Coleco and then renamed in 1983. The peak popularity happened over Christmas season in 1983. Literal toy riots broke out at stores across the U.S., and demand far exceeded supply.
In Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, it was a near riot. One woman broke her leg. 4 others were hurt. One store official armed himself with a baseball bat.
Cabbage Patch Kids were featured in animated TV specials, board games, kids cereal, and even got their own theme park, Babyland General Hospital in Georgia. All good things have to come to an end. By 1986, knockoffs and overproduction diluted the brand, and then kids also moved on to Teddy Ruxpin and Nintendo. Aerobics and workout videos. Jane Fonda's 1982 workout tape kicked off the home fitness revolution. Its peak popularity happened between 1982 and 1985, with tapes by Jane Fonda, Richard Simmons, and others flew off the shelves. Everyone's mom had a copy. Spandex, sweatbands, leotards, and VHS players became the unofficial uniform of living room gyms. It started to fade with saturation and new trends like Taebo and gym memberships in the late 80s, early 90s. Plus, working out on VHS eventually felt dated. Scratch and sniff stickers. First developed in the late 1970s as part of a sensory marketing, scratch and sniff stickers exploded in the 80s as rewards for kids in school. The peak popularity happened between 1981 and 1985, and if you were in grade school during that time, you probably had a sticker album, and it probably smelled like root beer or pizza. Teachers handed them out like candy for good behavior, spelling tests, and book reports. Kids would trade them like currency. There were whole sticker clubs and albums, and kids guarded their collections like treasure. Why it faded? As educational rewards changed and the novelty wore off, plus some scents started just to smell off, sticker mania cooled down. But for a few glorious years, peeling a sticker and sniffing a synthetic banana smell was peak happiness. Speaking of stickers, Garbage Pail Kids. Created by Topps as a parody of Cabbage Patch Kids and launched in 1985. Its peak popularity happened between 85 and 87, with over 15 series being released, plus animated shows, toys, and a not-so-great movie from 1987. They were hugely popular with elementary school kids. The cars were gross, hilarious, and instantly collectible. What happened? Well, schools banned them for being disruptive, and parents hated them. Lawsuits from Cabbage Patch's parent company also pressured Topps to back off. Atari and the video game crash. Atari launched its 2600 home console in 1977 and dominated the early gaming market.
I'd like the most popular home video game system ever.
The system you want is the Atari 2600.
That's what I want.
Its peak popularity happened between 1980 and 1982, with Pac-Man and Space Invaders selling millions of copies. Atari was gaming. Every kid begged for one. It was the new babysitter. What happened? Well, poor game quality. Can anyone say E.T.? There were too many consoles, and an oversaturated market led to the 1983 video game crash. Nintendo, though, revived the industry in 1985. Swatch watches. Introduced in Switzerland in 1983 as a cheap, colorful, trendy alternative to traditional watches. Its peak popularity happened between 1984 and 1987. Collectors would wear multiple swatches at once just to show off variety. Swatch stores popped up globally. Their collaborations with artists and designers were huge draws.
Swatch 'em! Ha ha ha! Swatch 'em! Now the hands on the swatch are all persistent, and the swatch is water and shock resistant. Swatch 'em! Ha ha ha! Swatch 'em! Swatch! The new wave in Swiss watches. Swatch!
Why did they fade? Well, fashion changed. Digital watches and luxury brands made swatches feel too teen. Still, they've remained in production and are a collector's item today. Breakdancing and boombox battles. This grew out of hip-hop culture in the Bronx during the late 70s. Mainstream exposure hit it in the early 80s. Its peak popularity happened in 83 to 85, fueled by films like Break It and Beat Street, and music videos like Run DMC, LL Cool J, and the Fat Boys. Kids practiced on cardboard, collected boomboxes, and mimicked their favorite dance moves from music videos. What happened? Well, like many fads, it got commercialized too fast. By the late 80s, breakdancing had been pushed aside for other dance crazes like the Running Man and Hammer Dance.
Hammer time!
From scented stickers to spandex workouts, the 80s were a wild ride of weird, wonderful trends that left a permanent mark on Gen X. Whether we were snapping slap bracelets or collecting Garbage Pail Kids like treasure, these fads weren't just fun, they were our culture. What was your favorite 80s craze? Drop it in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell for more nostalgic trips back to the greatest decade ever.